Have you ever just stopped and wondered why some ideas totally explode? Why one video or one product or even a restaurant just becomes the talk of the town, while other things that might even be better just fizzle out? It can feel like catching lightning in a bottle, right? But it turns out it's not magic. There's actually a science to it, a formula, and we're about to break it down.
So to get our heads around this, let's start with a little puzzle. What on earth could possibly connect a ridiculously expensive sandwich, a pop song that everyone loved to hate, and a brand new iPhone getting totally destroyed on purpose? I know, it seems completely random, but believe it or not, they all share the exact same secret ingredients for going viral.
Okay, clue number one, $100 cheesesteak. So, in Philadelphia, the undisputed home of the $5 cheesesteak, this one restaurant, Barclay Prime, decided to sell theirs for $100. $100. And the craziest part? It was a massive hit. People couldn't get enough of it. Just keep that in your back pocket.
Clue number two. I'm sure you remember Rebecca Black's song Friday. Whether you loved it or you hated it, it got millions and millions of views. But here's the really weird part. Its popularity isn't random at all. The views spike like clockwork every single Friday, week in, week out.
And our last clue comes from a blender company, of all things, called Blend Tech. They started this video series called Will It Blend? And for their big debut, they took a shiny new, very expensive iPhone, dropped it in their blender, and turned it into dust. And guess what? People could not stop watching and sharing it. So what is the link here? A pricey sandwich, a weekly pop song, and a pulverized iPhone. The secret isn't some stroke of luck, and it's not about having a massive advertising budget either. It's all about a formula, a framework that was developed by Wharton professor Jonah Berger after he spent years researching what really makes things catch on. And that formula is called STEPPS. It's an acronym, and it stands for 6 key principles that explain why we share things. Each letter, STEPPS, is a different piece of the viral puzzle. All right, let's dive in and unpack this thing, one letter at a time. So we're going to start with the first S and the first P in STEPPS, because honestly, they're two sides of the same coin. They're all about appearances. They tap into that deep, fundamental human desire to look good.
And our tendency to, copy what everyone else is doing.
The first principle is social currency. Let's go back to that $100 cheesesteak. Think about it. Nobody goes around bragging about a normal $5 sandwich. It's just not a story. But telling people you ate a $100 cheesesteak, now that is a story. It makes you sound interesting, in the know, maybe a little bit extra. The bottom line is, if sharing your product or idea makes someone look good, they do the marketing for you.
The next principle is public. This is all about what we call social proof. Deep down, we're all kind of like monkeys. Monkey see, monkey do. When we see a lot of other people doing something, we just assume it must be the right thing to do. So, if your idea is built to be seen, it's built to grow.
Here's a brilliant example. The Apple logo on their laptops. For years, it actually faced the user when the laptop was closed. But think about what happens when you open it in a coffee shop. The logo was upside down to everyone else. So Apple made a very simple but deliberate choice. They flipped it. They sacrificed a tiny bit of the user's experience to turn every single open laptop into a walking billboard. That's just genius.
All right, let's move on to our next two principles, triggers and emotion. This is all about what's going on inside our own heads. Because for an idea to get shared, it first has to be top of mind, and second, it has to make us feel something.
And this brings us right back to Rebecca Black and the principle of triggers. The song Friday has a perfect built-in trigger that happens every single week. When Friday rolls around, people are reminded of the song and boom, the views go up. If the song had been about the first day of school, it would get 1 trigger a year. But Friday, it gets 52.
And here's the thing. Companies can totally manufacture these triggers. Back in 2007, Kit Kat sales were actually falling, so they launched a huge campaign linking Kit Kats with coffee breaks. Why coffee? Well, because it's a frequent, daily habit for millions of people. By creating that mental link, every coffee break became a trigger to think about a Kit Kat. And you know what? Sales soared.
The next principle is emotion. Simple truth. When we care, we share. But it's not just any feeling. We share things that create high-arousal emotions. Think about the awe you feel watching an incredible talent show audition, or the anger you get from a political article. Those feelings make you want to do something. But low-arousal emotions, like sadness, they actually do the opposite. They make us shut down and keep things to ourselves. Okay, so we've covered how things make us look and how they make us feel. For our last two principles, we're going to shift gears to what an idea actually does for us. This is all about being useful and telling a great story.
This brings us to the second P in our list, practical value. And it's as simple as it sounds. We share stuff that is genuinely useful, right? If you find a great tip, a life hack, or some amazing advice, what's your first instinct? It's usually to pass it on to people you care about. Helping them feels good, and it makes our relationship stronger.
So for example, a video that teaches a new method for reading a whole book in just 3 hours instead of 3 weeks, that has immense practical value. The benefit is so huge and so clear that you almost feel obligated to share it with your friends who love to read but are always short on time. Usefulness is just naturally contagious.
And that brings us to our final S, stories. Our brains are hardwired for narratives, not for boring facts and figures. But here is the absolute key. The product has to be baked into the story. It has to be essential. A diver who just happens to have a casino logo on his chest, that's a forgettable ad. But you literally cannot tell the story of the blended iPhone without talking about the BlendTec blender. The product is the story.
So there you have it, the 6 steps that make ideas go viral. It's not about luck. It's a series of smart, strategic choices that you can apply to just about any idea or product. So let's do a quick recap of how you can put this to work. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Trying to hit all 6 of these sounds a little daunting, but here's the good news. You don't have to. A lot of the most successful viral campaigns are just incredibly strong in 2 or 3 of these areas. The goal isn't to check every single box. It's to really knock it out of the park on the ones that make the most sense for your idea. So this is your final takeaway. Think of it as a simple checklist. For social currency, just ask, does sharing this make people look good? For triggers, how will people be reminded of it? For emotion, does it hit a deep feeling? Public, is it easily seen by others? Practical value, is this actually useful? And finally, for stories, is your brand an essential part of the story? So the next time you have an idea that you really want to share with the world, don't just cross your fingers and hope for the best. Run it through the STEPPS framework. Just think about it. Could you give it more social currency? Or maybe you could wrap it in an unforgettable story. Your big idea might just be one step away from catching fire.